So we're going to start this video with a major kitchen appliance because it's the appliance that you're going to use for most of the terms within this video. For a range, most of your methods using pots and pans are going to be on top of the stove, and for baking, most of your things are going to be in the oven. So some kitchens are going to have a drop-in stove, which means that your oven might be on the wall or in another location and you've got cabinets underneath your stove. And some of them are going to be a range and a oven combined. So the top is the range and the bottom is the oven. So I wanted to cover this piece of equipment first so that you had a full understanding of that piece, and then we're going to go into the terms. To bake is to cook in an oven with dry hot air. It's a catch-all for a lot of different terms that we use for cooking in an oven. And another piece of important kitchen equipment that you're going to use in the oven is an oven mitt or a pot holder. I like these a lot because you have a lot more dexterity with your hand and they last really well. They're called an oven glove. There are a lot of different kinds of baking pans that are used in the oven. So now we're going to look at all of those. The terms baking sheet and sheet pan are interchangeable. Unlike a cookie sheet, they have 4 sides. A sheet pan comes in sizes from 1/8 size to a full sheet. A full sheet generally won't fit in a regular home oven. I recommend buying food service grade versions of these. They can be purchased very cheaply and last a lot better than ones designed for home use. This is a cookie sheet. Cookie sheets are awesome because they have one side that you're able to get a grip on over here, but they're flat on all the other sides. This is really helpful for doing things like pulling all of your items off at one time and reusing your pan quickly, or if you feel like the bottom is burning, it helps you remove things all at once. Using parchment with any cookie sheet or sheet pan is super helpful for cleanup. Cake pans are available in a wide variety of sizes from 4-inch all the way up to 20. They are used to bake cakes, cheesecakes, or anything you need baked that you would like to be round. One of our pieces of cooking equipment is a loaf pan. Loaf pans are usually used to bake bread, but they can also be used for things like meatloaf, and they can be used for yeast breads and quick breads like banana bread. Muffin pans or cupcake pans are also available in a wide variety of sizes, from mini to jumbo. Each size has cupcake liners that are available for its specific type. Pie pans are something that most kitchens have. You can get them in glass or metal versions, and a lot of pie crusts come with the pie pans already with them. I like to use pie pans as containers to flour chicken and put breading on it. It's a great multi-purpose container that can be used for a wide variety of applications. So don't limit yourself to just making pie in a pie pan. A pizza pan is basically a round cookie sheet or baking sheet. It's not an extremely necessary piece of equipment in your kitchen due to the fact that you can always bake a pizza on a cookie sheet or a baking sheet. So another couple of pieces of equipment are square and rectangular pans. You'll see a lot of recipes that call for an 8x8 or a 9x9 pan, and that's just a square pan with either 8 or 9-inch sides. Also, a lot of recipes call for a 9x13 pan. That is a rectangular pan with 9x13-inch sides. This is really common for baking. Casseroles come in a wide variety of sizes and shapes. They often come with lids, some that can be used in the oven and some that are just for storage. Casseroles are usually used for the baked dishes called casseroles or for things like mac and cheese. The broil setting on your stove, which is found right here, is different from the bake setting. When you are baking in an oven, generally the bottom elements are on when you're baking. But when you broil, there are elements in the top that are used. That's a much more direct heat source. Generally when you broil, you want to have your oven rack close to the top and you're going to be using it for things like small cuts of chicken or fish. Sometimes you can broil things like vegetables as well. The broil setting is used a lot as well if you're making a whole lot of toast in the oven. Grilling is something that is generally done outdoors. It's a good idea to have a cover for your grill because when rain hits it and goes through ashes that are in the grill, it actually creates lye, which will break down your grill very quickly. Grilling is a direct heat source and it pretty much is just broiling upside down. In order for it to be grilling, the final item needs to have grill marks, meaning that it needs to be cooked on a grate. To roast is to cook anything in a dry, hot oven, uncovered. Roasting pans are used for roasting generally large cuts of meat like a whole turkey or a roast. Some of them are going to have lids and some of them don't. Some of them come with racks inside that you can set your meat on so that it doesn't stay in the juices and the skin gets crispy. If you don't have a rack for your roasting pan, a really easy way to solve that problem is to chop up carrots and celery, put them in the bottom of the pan. This keeps the meat out of the juices and it also flavors the juices so they can be used for things like gravies or stocks. This is a boil. As you can tell, you've got lots of steam and a whole lot of bubbles coming to the top. You can boil in a saucepan, or in a pot or stock pot. If your recipe calls for braising, that's a low and slow technique. Generally, you're going to be cooking in the oven and you need some sort of cooking vessel with a tight fitting lid that's going to seal in any moisture that you have. A slow cooker or a crock pot is another great way to braise. It requires little to no effort because you just add ingredients, turn it on, and leave it to cook for a long period of time. It's a great time saver for those who have intense jobs and need to be able to cook without as much effort as cooking things on top of the stove. Microwave refers to a cooking term, meaning to heat something up in the microwave, and to the actual thing you're heating things up in, meaning the microwave. Make sure that you know that whatever containers that you're using are microwave safe. Don't ever put metal in the microwave. This includes wrappers to things like sandwiches from fast food restaurants like Chick-fil-A or Arby's, or any sort of metal cups or spoons. Simmer refers to water that is just below the boiling point, so it's almost boiling but not quite. You can simmer in any vessel that holds liquid, so saucepans, skillets, stock pots, crock pots, Anything that holds liquid, you're able to simmer in. There are several ways to steam food. The easiest way is to use steamer bags that are microwavable from the store. If you buy your frozen vegetables and they're not in a steamer bag, or if you're buying fresh vegetables that you'd like to steam, you have a couple of other options. There are many companies that make microwavable steamers that you can put in the microwave with a tiny bit of water and be able to steam your items very quickly. Another option is to use a pot. You put a small amount of water in the bottom and use a steamer basket. A steamer basket opens up to a wide variety of sizes, so it can be used in a lot of different pots, and you just lay it in there with a little bit of water in the bottom and then add in your vegetables and they'll be cooked by the steam created by the boiling water. There are many ways to deep fry in the kitchen. You can deep fry in a pot on top of the stove, but you will definitely need a deep fry thermometer. This will measure the temperature of the oil and clips onto the side of the pan with a little hook. You can also use a regular digital thermometer to check your temperature, but keeping a thermometer in there all the time allows you to know at all times what your particular temperature is. You can also use a purchased deep fat fryer in order to deep fry your items. This comes with automatic temperature regulation and usually a timer. It also is going to come with a basket for easy removal of whatever you're frying. To fry is to cook food in a small amount of hot fat. It's not like deep frying where it's completely immersed. Frying is usually done in a skillet or a saute pan. Skillets or frying pans have wide bottoms and low sides. They can be made of a lot of different materials like stainless steel, aluminum, or cast iron. Saute pans are uncovered. They don't have lids and they have sloping pans. So both of these are used for browning and frying foods. If you are using a cast iron skillet like we are, you need to make sure that you don't put water into them because it can end up messing up the seasoning of the pan. We're using a turner, which a lot of people call a spatula, to turn the food over. Notice we're using a plastic one because we're frying in a cast iron skillet. You don't want to use metal utensils to scrape the bottom of a cast iron skillet. You can also use tongs to turn over food. These can be made of metal or plastic, and I'm using metal in this case, but I'm being very careful not to scrape the bottom of the pan. They come in a lot of different sizes, and having a variety of sizes in your kitchen is a good idea. Sauté is a term that refers to lightly browning or cooking food in a small amount of fat. This can also be called pan frying. Any food that is sautéed should be browned. The term sauté is French, meaning jump. This refers to the way that the food jumps or pops in the pan as it's being cooked. The term stir fry is referring to cooking small pieces of food that are about the same size very quickly over high heat. It's done in a tiny bit of fat and you stir the food constantly. This method of cooking was developed in Asian countries due to the lack of fuel. You only need enough fuel to heat the very bottom of the pan, and you don't need a lot of oil to cook in this way of cooking either. A wok is a specialized pan that's used for this type of cooking. Because of its bowl shape, if you keep the food constantly moving, none of it burns and it's constantly cooking. So as you can tell from the way that we're cooking the food, it's always moving in the pan. So another important cooking term is to preheat. Preheating involves getting the oven hot before you start cooking. Preheating isn't necessarily important for things like cooking meats or toasting, but it is really important for baked goods to make sure that your temperature is steady throughout your cooking. In order to preheat, you're going to hit bake, set the temperature to whatever you want, and hit start. Your oven will usually beep, or it may have a light that indicates that it's fully heated. Rolling pins are typically used to roll out dough, but they can also be used to crush or crumble things. I prefer the marble varieties because you can usually get them pretty inexpensively, but the weight of them allows for you not to have to work as hard to roll things out. Cooling racks are an important piece of kitchen equipment, especially if you do a lot of baking. By placing items on a cooling rack, it allows air to circulate underneath it, allowing things to cool faster. Ladles are used to serve liquids. We usually think of them associated with soup, but they can be used for sauces, gravies, and for things like punch. Materials should be considered because you don't want to use a clear plastic punch ladle for something like soup because it might melt. Electric skillets are a household appliance that's a countertop frying pan. It does have a thermostat to maintain constant heat, but it can also take up a lot of space in the kitchen. It's not necessarily something that every kitchen needs. So another household appliance is a griddle. This one doubles as a crate maker, but a griddle is pretty much any flat surface that is heated to cook things on. They're often used for pancakes or eggs. Some griddles are stovetop models that you just use the burners and set it on top. Cast iron griddles work better in this case because they more evenly distribute the heat. Toasters are another common household appliance. They come in a variety of styles. They usually have settings for how dark you'd like your toast. Some of them have bagel settings, defrosting settings, and there's a different number of slots based on whatever needs that your family has. I like this one because it puts Hello Kitty on my toast. Toaster ovens are a small countertop appliance that can be very useful in a lot of kitchens. It's really wonderful for couples and singles because it produces less heat and uses less energy than a full-size oven. If you buy a convection model like this one, it also functions as an air fryer. Air fryers are essentially countertop convection ovens. If you get a toaster oven, then not only can you air fry, you can bake things, broil things, and toast things. Dishwashers are a major kitchen appliance. They are used to wash and sanitize dishes. It's important to load them in the correct way, but many dishwashers now have got top racks and bottom racks able to accommodate very tall items. It's also important that you only use detergent designed for dishwashers. If you use something like Dawn, you'll end up with a kitchen full of bubbles. Pressure cookers, or Instant Pots, have become very popular in recent years. Most have a sauté function that allows you to brown foods before you start, and then you can add liquid, beans, meat, or vegetables.